I never imagined that a single evening, just one dinner, could tear open a wound so deep I didn't know how to close it again. But that's exactly what happened the night my daughter, Aisha, told me to get out of her house. It was supposed to be a simple family dinner. A celebration, really. Her husband's parents were coming over and Aisha wanted me to join. Amy, she'd said on the phone earlier that week, you must come, they'll love meeting you again. Her voice was sweet, warm, just as it used to be when she was little and asked me to braid her hair before school. I spent the entire day preparing. I bought a new shawl, ironed it carefully, and cooked biryani to take with me. Even though she insisted she had everything handled, I wanted to bring something from my own kitchen, something that carried love, something that said, I'm proud of you. When I arrived, the house was glowing. Lights twinkled from the ceiling, the table was set perfectly, and Aisha looked stunning. She wore a navy blue dress that shimmered softly when she moved, her hair tied neatly back, and her smile, oh, that smile, was the same one that used to light up our small home when she was growing up. Her mother-in-law, Mrs. Rehman, sat beside her, a regal woman with kind eyes but a sharp tongue. I'd met her only twice before, both times cordial, polite, but distant. Assalamu alaikum, I greeted warmly as I stepped in. Mashallah, what a lovely home. Aisha smiled but quickly turned her eyes toward her mother-in-law. Wa alaikum assalam, Ami, she said softly, almost cautiously, as though my very presence required permission. I brushed it off. Maybe she was nervous about the dinner going perfectly. I sat down and we began to eat. The conversation flowed easily between her in-laws and her husband, Saad. They spoke about business, travel, and home decor. I stayed quiet for most of it, just listening, occasionally offering a polite comment. At one point, Mrs. Rehman asked, So, Aisha, your mother lives alone, right? Must be difficult. Before I could respond, Aisha quickly said, Oh, she's fine, she manages. Her tone was brisk, almost dismissive. Something in my chest tightened. Manages, that word, cold, detached, made it sound like I was some burden she had to justify. I smiled faintly. Yes, I manage well, alhamdulillah. I keep busy with my garden and my neighbors. The evening carried on and I tried to stay cheerful. I complimented Aisha's cooking, praised her decor, and even helped serve the dessert. But every time I spoke, I felt her eyes dart nervously to her mother-in-law as if checking whether my words were acceptable. Then came the moment that changed everything. As we sat sipping tea, Mrs. Rehman looked at me and said kindly, You must be very proud of Aisha. She's such a capable woman. Oh yes, I replied warmly. She's always been like that. Ever since she was a child, she wanted to do everything on her own. I still remember when I was about to share a funny story from Aisha's school days, something harmless and sweet, when my daughter suddenly interrupted sharply. Amy, please, she said, her face tightening. Not now. The table went quiet. I blinked, startled. Oh, I was just telling. I said not now. Her voice rose slightly, her cheeks flushed red. You don't have to bring up all those stories, okay? We're having dinner. My lips trembled. I didn't mean. She sighed loudly, turned to her mother-in-law and said, She does this all the time. She just starts saying things without realizing how it sounds. A small laugh escaped Mrs. Rehman's lips, not mocking but enough to sting. The room suddenly felt suffocating. I could feel my pulse in my ears. I'm sorry, I whispered, lowering my gaze. I didn't mean to embarrass anyone. But Aisha wasn't done. She turned back to me, her voice quieter now but colder. Amy, please just stop talking about the past. You don't understand how things are now. That sentence broke something inside me. For a moment, I wasn't sitting at a beautiful dining table. I was standing in the small kitchen of our old house, holding her tiny hands, teaching her how to knead dough. I was staying up late at night sewing her Eid dress, saving every rupee to buy her school books. And now here she was, looking at me like a stranger who didn't belong. I wanted to leave, but my body wouldn't move. My hands were trembling as I set down my cup. Then Saad spoke, trying to lighten the moment. Come on, Aisha, don't be so harsh. Amy just wanted to share something nice. But Aisha frowned. You don't understand, Saad. This is exactly what I didn't want tonight. The silence after that was unbearable. Everyone looked down, pretending to focus on their plates. I took a deep breath, stood up, and said softly, Maybe I should go. No, Mrs. Rehman said quickly, perhaps out of politeness. But Aisha's eyes met mine, and in them I saw something worse than anger, embarrassment, shame. "Maybe that's best," she whispered. "Just get out, Amy." Those 3 words, get out, felt like a slap. I froze, unable to process what I'd just heard. My throat tightened and tears blurred my vision. I picked up my shawl, my hands shaking. "Of course," I managed to say. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." I walked to the door, each step heavier than the last. Nobody followed me, nobody said a word. The door clicked softly behind me, but in my heart it slammed like thunder. Outside, the night air was cold. The stars above seemed distant, cruelly indifferent. I stood there for a moment, clutching my shawl, waiting for her to call me back, but she didn't. The ride home was a blur. I don't even remember how I got into the rickshaw. The city lights blurred through my tears. At home, I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the walls. The silence pressed against me, heavy and merciless. Every corner of the room whispered her name. I remembered her laughter when she was little, the way she'd run into my arms after school, the way she'd cling to my shawl when she was scared. When her father died, she was only 10. I worked double shifts just to keep her in school. I skipped meals to pay her tuition. I never once complained. Every sacrifice I made with love because she was my world. And now that world had turned its back on me. Days passed, she didn't call, neither did Saad. I told myself she was busy, that maybe she regretted what she said, but the silence stretched like a wound that refused to heal. I went about my days quietly, watering the plants, cooking for one, pretending I wasn't waiting for her message. One evening there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Aisha stood there. She looked tired, her eyes red. "Amy," she said softly. For a long time I couldn't speak. I wanted to scream, to ask why, to tell her how much it hurt, but instead I just said, "Come in." She sat down, fidgeting with her hands. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "That night, I don't know what came over me. I was nervous, trying to make everything perfect for them, and when you started talking, I just lost control. I didn't mean to say those words." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Please forgive me." I looked at her for a long moment. My heart ached. I wanted to hold on to my anger, to remind her how deeply she'd cut me, but a mother's heart doesn't work that way. I reached out and placed my hand over hers. "I forgave you the moment you said it," I said quietly, "but Aisha, those words, they don't just hurt, they stay." She nodded, sobbing softly. "I know, I'll never forget what I did." I smiled weakly. "Maybe that's a good thing. It'll remind you to never make your heart hard toward those who love you most." We sat together in silence. After a while, she rested her head on my shoulder, the same way she used to when she was little. For the first time in days, I felt her warmth again. Life went on. We never spoke of that night again, but the memory remained, a quiet ache, a scar beneath the surface. Sometimes, when she visits now, I still see that flicker of guilt in her eyes, and I smile because I know she's learned. That night taught us both something. It taught her the weight of her words, and it taught me that even the purest love can be wounded by pride. But in the end, love remains. It bends, it breaks, it hurts, but it never truly leaves. And that's what being a mother means. You keep giving even when your heart is cracked open, because no matter how old your child becomes, they'll always be the little girl whose tears once fell into your hands.